Well, all eyes were on Clifton MP Kendall Wright today as observers waited to see if any resignation announcement would come in the House of Assembly. Our news team spoke with Wright before this morning's session, hoping to get some first-hand insight amidst weeks of speculation over his future with the party.
Mr. Wright, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
We've been hearing in the media talks of your
And
resignation.
you won't get any comment from me now, Clinton.
Will you be making a presentation in the House?
I will.
Although Wright planned to speak in the House, that didn't happen because the House was adjourned early. It'll resume on Monday. Well, earlier today, leader of the opposition Progressive Liberal Party, Perry Christie, expressed the view that there may be early elections. Here's what he had to say on that.
In our system, the Prime Minister has the discretion to determine when elections are held. The fact of the matter is they must be held now, obviously, by the 2nd of May, even though there's some latitude to go beyond. But we believe that the elections will be held well prior to that date. So it seems to me now, given the fact that we are in the Christmas season, that it is obviously the best advice to myself and my party to be prepared for elections at any time. And so we do know that the longer he waits, the more predictable it would be, obviously. And so given that window, we are anticipating that elections could be held sooner rather than later.
The polling division's order was tabled in Parliament today. The document details how polling divisions will be constituted. The House is seeking to ensure that no more than 400 people are in any one polling division. Debate on the order begins on Monday. A review of the books of the Mortgage Corporation has indicated that several clients acquired homes without any arrangement to pay mortgages. Now officials are investigating how that happened as the former housing minister defends against the claims of impropriety under his watch. Clint Watson has that story.
Unfortunately, some of the things that we found were pretty scary.
And what chairman of the Mortgage Corporation, Dr. Dwayne Sands, found was this.
There were people in homes that had no mortgages. In other words, they had been given a key, but there was no commitment, no guarantee that they would pay for the home. And this was more than one, more than two, more than three. There was many.
Dr. Sands says these individuals would have been placed in homes between 2002 and 2007. He noted that the value is in the millions of dollars, but it begs to wonder how were these transactions carried out if personnel at the corporation followed guidelines and procedures. We asked Dr. Sands if investigations were done as to how these homes were obtained.
As you can imagine, the specific information as to how these things happen is not easily forthcoming. Suffice it to say that we can only speak on the facts, and the facts are that even today there are still 12 individuals that had been granted homes during the PLP administration, during the period, the tenure of the then Minister of Housing, the Honorable Shane Gibson, who never was granted a mortgage.
Dr. Sands says this also means the corporation did not have any security to protect its investment. Former Housing Minister Shane Gibson feels Dr. Sands is simply trying to make a name for himself as a newcomer to politics.
Tell him bring the proof. If there's irregularities, bring the proof. The same people who work at Bahamas Mortgage Corporation then work there now. Sandra Storr was in charge then. She was the deputy director in charge of the Mortgage Corporation. She was there then. She is there now. If there is proof that it is happening, stop saying it. Come to the press. We are talking about freedom of information. Come to the press, bring the documents, and show them what happened. Don't bring half of the story.
But it appears that this issue is being used as a war of words between politicians. Gibson was candid in his views on this issue.
A person slipped through the cracks. It wouldn't be the first time, it wouldn't be the last time. But Dr. Sands is trying to make a name for himself. I'm just a humble workers' representative trying to do my best in politics. He's a heart surgeon with no heart, putting good, young darlings of the nation out on the streets. I would never, ever do something like that.
Clint Watson, ZNS News.
Parliamentarians will have a busy day when they meet next Monday to debate a number of agenda items they say need to be completed before year's end. Among them, a loan guarantee resolution for the government to borrow some $80 million from the Inter-American Development Bank for the New Providence Water Desalination and Supply Project. This announced today as the report detailing the Water and Sewage Corporation's sobering financial state was tabled. We get more from Ianthea Smith.
Environment Minister Dr. Earl DeVoe tabled the Water and Sewerage Corporation's 2010 annual report, which notes that the corporation had an operating loss of some $13.38 million compared to the $10.44 million in 2009, a whopping 28.2% increase. The report also noted that taking into account depreciation and other operating costs as well as government subsidies, the corporation experienced a net operating loss of $3.07 million last year compared to a net operating loss of $6.38 million in 2009. The report says according to the financial position, net accounts receivables increased by 55.4% in 2010 from $4.83 million in 2009 to $7.51 million last year. Additionally, balances due from government agencies, ministries, and departments increased more than twofold from $3.3 million to $6.96 million. Net current liabilities up to December 31st last year increased by $5.52 million or 8% to $74.0 from $68.74 million the year before. Electricity and fuel and oil costs rose in tandem due to rising global energy costs. Ianthea Smith, ZNS News.
Also from the House of Assembly today, the Prime Minister tabled a bill to amend the Judges' Remuneration and Pension Act. The act seeks to bring into force a number of recommendations from a 2009 Judicial Review Commission, which will give Supreme Court and Court of Appeal judges, among other things, a 3% salary increase.
Internet access allowance with a fixed sum of $75 per month be granted with immediate effect. That without prejudice to the right to vacation leave and personal and casual days, justices be allowed 10 days paid leave per year for study attachments or attendances at seminars and conferences as approved by the Chief Justice, where such participation is undertaken at the judge's own expense.
The recommendations also allow for justices with households in Nassau who serve in Freeport to receive per diem and subsistence allowance for duty travel for as long as they're on assignment in Freeport. It also allows judges of the Supreme Court assigned to Freeport full-time to be given the option of free housing or a housing allowance in lieu thereof. Upon retirement, they'll also remain on the group health insurance plan, and after 5 years of continuous service, they'll retain the courtesy title, the Honorable, for life. Debate on these and more changes.
And wishes to support all of the recommendations. The government is happy to be in a position to support all of the recommendations in the prevailing economic climate at this time.
Now, debate on these and other changes to the Judges' Remuneration and Pension Act expected to begin next week. Well, still to come in the Bahamas tonight, air traffic controllers demand that contract talks take off. They say they'll take industrial action in the meantime. That story is still to come.